And that's a wrap. Thanks.
Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. I have a question for our guest.
Here's your host, George Davis.
Hey, everybody. You know, it always it always helps when you hit the right button. I can't even talk tonight. This is another installment of a new podcast that I have called After the Voice, which actually is just kind of a portion of Before Nashville, because it seems like the last probably 8 months, I've probably interviewed more contestants from The Voice than any other section of country music, regardless. So tonight we've got another one with us. You might remember him. We had another one of his show friends on last week, and then we've interviewed another one before that. It's Jay Allen. Jay, how are you, my man?
George, good to see you, my friend.
You too. You too. I tell you, if it wasn't for The Voice, I wouldn't have a podcast.
Well, there's a lot of my friends came from The Voice, so that's awesome, man. I'm glad you're interviewing all of them and promoting their music and what you stand for. That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. I had Orlando Mendez on. I've had Morgan Miles on. I've had Chris Cruzy on. I had Audra McLaughlin on. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out.
We actually just played a show with Morgan a couple weekends back. And it's actually an old friend of mine, and we actually didn't even know we were going to be on The Voice together until we were on the plane to LAX, and they sat us next to each other. I was like, oh. So, yeah, I'm really, really proud of her. We actually played a show right outside of Memphis, and I didn't realize she had broke her foot. So she played the whole show sitting down with a broken foot. I felt so bad for her, but she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, she motors around that scooter pretty good, though.
Yes, I love it. It's funny because she had like a little stallion on the front of it, a little horse. And I never promote this or market it, but I call my band and all my best friends my stallions. It's like a running joke. So we hit it off. We were laughing about that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we had her for a show in April, and it was shortly after that she broke her foot. And I'm glad it wasn't during that show. I'm glad it was after, because I would have felt bad if it had been during.
Yeah. I've broken a lot of things. I was a wrestler growing up. I never broke a foot. That sounds terrible.
Wow. Yeah. I've never broken a bone. Knock on wood.
You're one of the lucky ones, man.
That I know of, anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I have it. Just means I don't know it.
Yeah, I was a wrestler as a kid. I'm from Iowa, so I think I've broken every finger you can think of.
We always seem to have some kind of technical issues. It says it's my Wi-Fi is bad, but I'm hardwired. I don't know where that comes from. I think it's Spectrum want more money out of me or something.
I'm sure that's how it goes. That's how it works.
Exactly. So now you've been in Nashville, 11, 12 years now?
Yeah, we're approaching year 11 already. I can't believe it. Yeah, they call it a 10-year town, and I feel every second of that 10 years. But we've had a very positive last year and a half. Really, kind of started with hitting the refresh button with going on The Voice. I never thought I'd be the guy on that show. Honestly, they called me a couple years in a row and asked me to be on the show. But, they're a storyline focused show, and I have a story to tell. So I politely declined 4 years in a row, to be honest. And last year they called me, and I kind of was at a point where I realized I'd been doing what I've been doing, which really is, shining light on Alzheimer's, which is the disease that took my mother. And I was doing it by myself. I really, for the first time in a while, I didn't have really a team at all. And I thought, what better way to not just elevate my career, but to shine an even brighter light on this fight against Alzheimer's. So I finally said yes. I begged with producers, please let me tell this story about losing my mom and writing this song called Blank Stares. And they said yes, and they told it in such a beautiful way I could have never expressed in my own words and in my own way. Blank Stares, that song went #2 on the iTunes country charts because of The Voice, and it got me a record deal. And actually right now we're right outside of Orlando, Florida, because I'm on radio tour. So actually had a a song idea while I was actually on The Voice called No Present Like the Time. And we just took that song to country radio. We went for ads last Monday. So now I'm out here hustling and sharing that message. I get to talk about this story that I shared on The Voice now all around the country on country radio. So I do accredit a lot of that to my time on The Voice and them kind of opening up all the doors that we've walked through ever since. So it was definitely a blessing for me.
Let's go back and talk about that. Generally, I start off talking about growing up and where you got your love for music or how you got into music but I want to talk about The Voice first because I watched that season. We were just talking about Morgan Miles and I watched the season she was on, and I already knew her, and then there were so many that were on that particular season that I've had on the show. But when you came out to do your blind auditions, you're doing Cody Johnson Till You Can't. You slayed that song, and I think Cody even said that as well. Talked about how good of a job you did on his song.
Thank you.
But as you're sitting there, and Gwen turns first, and then Blake turns, and then you decided to go with Gwen's team. And I'm not gonna question your decision because I mean it was the right decision for you. I mean, you'd even said because after the knockout rounds, you were up against Kara, and Gwen awarded the win in that knockout round to Kara. And then as you're walking away, and I love the way they phrased it, that you were almost to the Santa Barbara airport whenever Gwen hits her save button.
Yeah.
And then Blake's sitting there and he just slaps his steel. And then you had another decision to make because you already had to decide between the two to start with. So now you had the exact same decision to make in a sense. And you went with Blake this time. Do
Yeah.
you
Yep. It was kind of.
feel like that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was, I kind of had a plan going in,
Uh-huh.
and they kind of coach you through it as well. For me, I'm married to Kylie Morgan. She's a country artist as well. And,
Yes.
I remember bringing up to her, like if I have to choose, I think I'm going to choose Gwen. And she goes, well, you have to choose Gwen. She goes, I'm her biggest fan. You have to go with Gwen. And for me, like, I thought, probably everyone that's country or especially from Nashville is going to go with Blake Shelton, So
Right.
I knew I eventually wanted to get to Blake, and he's, the king of country music. But I thought, gosh, such a big fan. I'm not just a fan of country music. I'm a fan of all types of genres of music. My mother introduced me to country music when I was a kid. She'd pick me up from school or wrestling practice or football practice, and she'd roll down the windows and she would crank up the local country radio station. And she introduced me to what I consider the legends of country music: Clint Black and Reba McEntire and George Strait and Brooks and Dunn and Garth Brooks, which is crazy. I'm actually releasing a cover of "Oh Holy Night" with Garth Brooks' daughter, Ali Colleen, here in a couple weeks on December 1st. So kind of a 180 experience for me. But my dad, on the other hand, introduced me to rock and roll. My first concert ever was Kansas opening up for Styx. And he has an insane classic rock vinyl collection. And he brought home a record by Matchbox 20 one time, and that's how I learned how to play guitar and covered in tattoos. So, I'm kind of like, I'm drawn both ways, and she kind of comes from that pop rock world. And so I thought, if everyone that's country is going to go with Blake, I'm going to go with Gwen, and then
Right.
when I had the opportunity to switch teams, it just seemed pretty obvious. And I love that how it went down, and I kind of played into, it's a TV show, so I kind of played into it, and we had fun with it. And the coolest thing that happened for me was I just felt like, they kind of, made a joke out of it, how they were my now adopted parents and fighting over me, and, which is really funny. But outside of the show and outside of the cameras, they actually are real humans, and I got to experience that as well. I got a phone call from Blake and his people after the show was done, and he said, "Jay, I'd love to invite you to come play my hometown O-Red in Tishomingo, Oklahoma." And I immediately said yes. So I had to actually I said yes before I realized my routing. So we were playing in Albuquerque, New Mexico the night before. So I was like, oh my gosh. So we had to like drive through the night to get there on time. But we get there and we're sound checking, and I realized, man, all the staff are like mopping the floors and like waxing the tables. I'm like, this seems a little different. So we get ready and we come back. We get ready to the hotel and we come back and we walk down the green room, and there's literally like a line down the street. I was like, okay, like I know I just came off The Voice. This is a really good turnout, but something's happening. And so we go down the green room, which is like in the basement underneath the venue, and my guitarist is in front of me, and he looks back at me as he walked down. He goes, "Hey man, who's that cute blonde sitting on the couch down here?" And I look over, and it was Gwen Stefani. So Gwen and Blake had surprised me, and they showed up at my last show of the year. And I just kind of, we got to spend time with them, and they took pictures and spoke to all my family and close friends and my band, and I got to experience, for me, like everyone sees the, what they see on TV, which was awesome and fun, and so much good came from it. But I actually got to experience the humans, the real Blake and Gwen. So that was the biggest part of what I took from it. And they've just been such advocates and, bestowed their wisdom on me ever since. So really such a beautiful experience from top to bottom. I'm very, very grateful for it. And Blank Stares went #2 on the country iTunes charts, like I said, and got me, helped get me a deal. And now here we are. I remember Blake said, he said something to me, and in the moment I thought, he probably says this to everyone, but he said, "Jay, there's no reason why you shouldn't be on country radio right now, have a single on country radio." And, blink my eyes, and a year later, here we are. We have a single on country radio, and we're going for ads and pushing it around the country now. So
That's awesome.
yeah, such a God thing for me. I love that, I had the opportunity to say no a few times, and I did because it didn't feel right in the time, but God's timing is everything, and it made sense, so here we are.
Right. And I remember watching your audition, and Kylie's back there with your dad, and I recognized her at first, and I thought I knew who she was. And then I asked my wife, who's a fan of hers, and she goes, "Yeah, that's Kylie Morgan." And I go, "Well, I mean, I didn't know at the time what the relationship was." And I said, "Well, I wonder what she's doing there." And she goes, "I'm not sure." And then I found out y'all were married. So, um,
Yep.
but she's standing there with your dad. When I first see your dad, I'm thinking this guy is like he is either an outlaw country lover or he is a headbanger extraordinaire.
Yeah. He dresses like an outlaw, but he leans more towards the headbanger extraordinaire. So, like I said, he introduced me to rock and roll. I had a black light Led Zeppelin poster as a kid, and he it's cool now because he dresses like that because his kid grew up to sing country music. I'm in the country genre, even though my sound is very much so country rock and roll. But now he wears the cowboy hat, and he dresses like Johnny Cash, like his son. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. That was a really beautiful moment for me, and all the way around. I remember when obviously to have my dad and my my wife's side stage was beautiful for me. But I remember when they sent me the list. So The Voice sends you a list. They give you like 100 songs that are a no, please don't choose these songs, and 100 songs that are a yes, pick one of these songs. And so you got to pick like your top 20 choices that you want to sing for the blind audition. And I remember I get the email back, and their first choice for me was my first choice for myself, and it was Till You Can't. And as before that song went #1, but I remember just really resonating with that song and the message behind it, obviously. But then it was cool for me because I'm really close friends with one of the songwriters on that song, Ben Stennis. He's one of my first friends in Nashville before he had hits, and really, took me under his wing and taught me, how to write a great song, and really be intentional with your songwriting and take time when you songwrite. And it's really important to be honest when you're songwriting. So the story behind that song is they wrote it like 8 years ago. It took them 7 years to even get it cut. And even when Cody Johnson reached out and wanted to cut it, they were like, he wasn't that big at that time. So they kind of questioned it. Obviously, now they're very thankful they went that direction. But I'll never forget when I chose that song, I'm actually driving to the airport, B&A in Nashville, and I wasn't supposed to do this, but I called Ben and I let him in, and I let him know what was going on, and I could hear him immediately tearing up. And he just goes, Jay, he goes, I'm going to pray for you, first of all, before you get on that flight. He said, also want to let you know, he said, we were thinking about you and your mother, my mom, who passed away from Alzheimer's, in your story in the room that day when we wrote that song. Because I was going through that with her during that time. You know, she was very, very sick, and the story was starting to come out. So that was a cool moment for me, and another God moment where it felt like, you know, how cool that we can utilize a TV show to do good, you know. And, you know, for me, it's not, I think the main reason why I never want to go on that show is because it's never really been about me. You know, I've never had this desire to like try to be famous. You know, even now that I have a song that's going to country radio, it's kind of an odd feeling, but I realize I can utilize my gift and my story to help other people. You know, I can share my story of loss and pain and how we turned it into something beautiful. That creates a safe place for other people to share their stories. So, you know,
Right.
yeah, it's really cool for me. You know, just all the way around, just such an awesome experience. Very, very grateful for it.
Now you were extremely close with your mom.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen interviews and I've heard you talk about her, and it never fails. Every time I listen, every time I watch, you tear up, and it's one of those things where, you know, I feel your pain. I didn't lose my mom to Alzheimer's, but I did lose her a couple of years ago, and since that time, it seems like every song I've listened to, um, like your version of "Till You Can't," and then when you sang "Blank Stare," and then the new one that you're out promoting right now, those have been songs that have spoke to me about my mom because it was a very difficult situation. We just moved her here 3 months prior to our part of the country from the other side of the state. And I get a call at 10 o'clock one night. I'm in my studio and I get a call that something's wrong. And I get up there to the facility where she's at. And I, I begged her. I begged her, you know, Mom, you got to stay with me. You know, I lost my sister the previous October. I was the only child. And then mom lost my dad 26 years ago, something like that. Um, so I was it. I mean, there was nobody else from my nuclear family that was there. And I'd listen to you and I've listened to you so many times sing these songs, and there's never been a time. Um, if I'm going to work, I have to stop at the parking lot and take a few minutes to get my composure. If I'm driving home, Uh, same thing. I mean, you know, I come in, my wife goes, "You're listening to Jay, aren't you?" And I'm going, "Yeah." Uh, she knows. So you've been there for me in a lot of ways, and I thank you for that.
Oh man. I'm sorry that you've had to experience those losses, and yeah, hmm. It's beautiful for me, you know, because I just feel like there's such an opportunity to share, you know, faith right now. You know, I always say this. I never want to preach to anyone, but I just believe we're connected through our losses, you know, and we realize
Mm.
how short time is, and you know that's really what this song is about. You know, the one that we're pushing to radio right now. It's called "No Present Like the Time." You know,
Mhm.
we've all heard that phrase. There's no time like the present. But you know, we thought, what? How about no present like the time? Time is a gift. You know, I don't
Right.
think it's so easy to take our days for granted. You know, and we don't realize that it can all. It's like sand through an hourglass. You know, we
Mhm.
don't realize that until it's just like, oh my gosh, I lost my mom, and I'm never gonna get her back. I'm never gonna hear her voice again. I can't text her or call her or go home and see her. Like it's finite. It's definite. You know, and when you really swallow that pill, it's like, gosh, I need to live differently. You know, I need to take every day like it's my last. You know, like we played a show in Nashville last night, and I say yes to everything now, even if it seems impossible, even if I know I'm gonna get no sleep, even if I know I could get sick, even if I know I'm not gonna see my wife. I just say yes because I don't know if I'm gonna get tomorrow. So last night we played a show in Nashville for Kimberly Paisley, the famous actress, Brad Paisley's
Mhm.
wife.
Right.
Raised a bunch of money for Alzheimer's when I knew I had to wake up this morning at 2:30 in the morning to come to Orlando, Florida to play a radio show. But just it changes how your perspective on life. When you lose someone and then you realize, okay, we got to make the most out of this because you never know when you don't have tomorrow. So I'm sorry that you've had to experience those things, but I love that you've created a platform, where you can, share stories and connect with people and even share faith and open up a door for people to know they're not alone and experience healing and all these beautiful things out of loss. So you're doing a great thing, George.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm one of these. I'm kind of like you. I'm never looking for accolades. I'm just looking to do what I feel like I'm supposed to do, and this is one of the things that I felt like I'm supposed to do. I mean, I champion for the independent artist, and then sometimes that opens a door to where I can share a story. And it's hard. I mean, it still hurts. It's still very painful, as I'm sure it is for you too. I mean, um, the people that we love the most are the hardest ones to give up.
Yes, yes, yes. I see my mother I experience her every day, one way or another,
Mhm.
And that's the beauty in music, and the power in music. And it's our story really started with the power of music, just people that have dementia and Alzheimer's, they have this really glossy look in their eyes. They're not present. They're not there. They call it the longest goodbye for a reason because you lose them once and then you lose their physical body as well.
Right.
So my dad brought her to Nashville and he wanted to make that trip to make sure I got time with my mother before the disease progressed any farther. She was diagnosed at 51. She passed at 54. So it was 2 years and 9 months that it took her life. Happened very, very quickly. So brought her to Nashville. We took her to a venue, and I'll never forget. She walked in that venue, and everything about her changed. Her entire aura, that blank stare went away in her eyes, and the kind of the sparkle came back, and I pulled her inside, and we started slow dancing to a fast song right in front of the band. And it was music that created this moment where she, like I said, she was basically gone. She was not my mother anymore. And even at age, I think she's 52 or 53 at the time, she looked like she was 80. It was killing her very, very quickly. And I just felt because of the music and the band in that moment, she came back. She pulled me in, and she was there. She said, "Oh, Jay, I've missed you. I love you. It's so good to be here." And that's the power of music. Like we have this tool now that we can utilize, And so, you're doing that with your podcast. We have this opportunity just to be humans, and through music and through conversations and through being honest and all these things. That's the main reason why I wanted a song on country radio or any format. Just
Right.
how can I reach the masses with this message, and how could I, if I could just help one person, like just to hear that listen to my songs and it helps you, like imagine if I could do that to thousands or millions, give them that even just a moment before work or after work and when they need it. If I can utilize country radio as a tool to accomplish that, to help someone, even if it's just one person, that's so worth it for me. So,
Yeah. And I've been in country radio for a lot of years, and that's one of the things I've always said. I work in radio during the day. I worked in every format imaginable outside of talk radio. Um, and I have found that country radio is the most accessible to their fans, and B, it probably carries the strongest message to their fans than any other genre does.
hmm I think that's why we all fall in love with country music. I remember as a kid, like I said, mom would pick me up. She had this car that I hated so much. It was a purple LeSabre. It was like a terrible car, uh, but I didn't care. I ended up loving it because it was like, this is story time. This is like healing time. This is,
Right.
It's I call it it's so I was a music director in churches. Like, I came up in the church. That's a long story too. My dad, he owned a restaurant. He had a couple that came in, they witnessed to him, invited them to church. My parents didn't want to go, but they ended up taking me. So I grew up in the church and started singing in the church, became a music director. And I experienced the power of music through that. Sorry, I
Yeah,
lost a second.
that's okay.
What was your original question? I lost my stream of thought. I got
I,
ex
I,
Oh,
you know, I totally,
we're talking about country music. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
I was a music director in churches for a long time, and I learned a lot from that. And not, disqualifying church or Christian radio, but I felt like country music became my home because it's like you can be a light in the darkness. It's where people are the most honest. Like, I can be on a stage with a beer in my hand, and people in the crowd are half lit up and partying and having a good time, but then I can turn around and I can talk about God, or I can talk about my struggles, and then you see everyone hush, and they're intently listening and engaged, and we're allowed to have this human, real experience in country music. We're all
yeah,
just being authentically who we are, with most of the time no judgment. And I just think that's the beauty in country music. It's like, I always think, like, we have the opportunity to be a light in the darkness. I've had conversations about God, because of my story. People, I think, have they feel like they have a safe place with me. People approach me in bars, like, we've had conversations about how they lost their parent, or a sibling, someone they love, and I've prayed for them in a bar, and, like, that's
yeah.
really what country music is. I love it so much, and I think it really is the best genre in the world. it's it's
Yeah,
really, it's embracing me now, which is awesome, because I've been embracing it for a long time.
yeah. I've been 40 years in radio, and half of that's been in country radio.
Wow.
Um, and I wish the first 20 would have been country radio,
Mm.
just simply because. But like I said, I work every format, and and it's always pointed to the fact that, like I said, the artists are accepting, the fans are accepting, and that's the beauty of it, because nobody judges on either side of a microphone.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, we just Kylie and I just went to the CMA Awards this last week,
Mhm.
we're literally on the, I don't know how this happened, George, but we're on the floor in the second row. Like, it's like, how did we get here? You know, and you see Jelly Roll get on stage, this big guy that has face tattoos, and but he's just authentically himself, and God's led him to a place where now he has a story to share. And he can impact, like, his thing is, like, he can take kids that are on, the wrong path, and kind of show them another way, like,
Right.
you can take another direction. And because he's been there, he took the wrong direction, and he's being an example for young men now. And I just think that's really the purpose of this genre of country music. And I really, it was cool just to see the genre, and the CMAs uphold their principles. I
Mhm.
think they really embrace the artists that, and I've seen them start to do that with me. When you have a message to share, you really desire to. There's a lot of artists, that they're getting showcased now, being brought into the spotlight, that have really something to offer to help make a mark and make the world a better place. So it's nice to be involved in this community, and, like I said, feel embraced finally. So, and now who knows what next year's going to bring? There really is there's a class at Belmont, the power of radio. And just today we did a radio interview in Ocala, and just like, how did we get here? But now they're going to play the song on the radio, and just one by one, we're going to go through and create all these relationships with radio. And hopefully we can utilize the power of music and the message that I have to offer, which started from loss and pain, to bring healing and beauty and help others. So, pretty cool thing.
Right. I mean, I spent, like I said, I spent a lot of time today reading articles, watching interviews, watching videos. Um, I have to say one that I like that um, it's not it's a fun song, and that's the one you did, and Kylie singing back up, and then you got
Mustang on Mud Tires.
yes, Mustang on Mud Tires. I love that song. That was so good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We like I said, Dad brought me up in rock and roll, so it's kind of the complex of mom loves country and dad loves rock and roll. So there's definitely
right.
two different side, like a Jekyll and Hyde side to me. If any of my close friends, they would tell you like as much as I'm the heartfelt guy and have a message, and I'm going to be human with people. Also, I'm going to make sure everyone around me is having the best time ever at all times. So that we wanted to embrace that with that song. That was such a fun song, man. And
It was
we do it live every weekend. I got that, and I have to do the rap. So, and I don't rap. I had to listen to that rap 100 times to learn how to do it. So,
I thought you did pretty good just introducing Nate in the song. I thought, oh, he's got the chops. He can do
got
this.
that far. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, we do. I've usually had maybe like 4 or 5 Tito's by the time I have to do the rap. So, yeah, it comes
Uh,
out a little smoother after the Tito's hits me. But yeah,
right.
got some fun songs out there too, and we got songs like "Tattoos to Heaven," which is a whole nother
Mhm.
story. That's the cool thing too about country radio. More eyes starting to be on me is that hopefully people are attracted to other songs that I put out in the past, and they
Yeah.
all have their own story. That one it's an up tempo song, but it's I'm covered in tattoos. I have 130 hours worth of tattoos on me, and that story really is. It started out as kind of my autobiography, but
Mhm.
it turned into more than that. As cliche and cheesy as it sounds, I'm sure you've heard this from other artists, but I always, beg God, like if you could just utilize, this song that I poured out of my heart to help one person, that's all that really matters to me. And so we released that song, and I didn't get any love from the label I was with, and I was like, gosh, like I poured my heart into this song, like do something with it. And
Right.
God answered like he always does, and I get an email from this guy, and it went like this. He said, "Jay, I just heard your song Tattoos to Heaven." Said, "You don't know me, but my name is Don Caskey. I have stage 4 terminal kidney cancer." And he shared his story, and he said he quit his job. He worked in like a factory for 30 years in Toledo, Ohio. And once he found out he didn't have much longer to live, he just quit everything, packed up his car, and just started driving around the country, city to city. He would stop in every town, and he would shout out on Facebook or whatever, and say, "Hey, like I'm here in town. This is my story. I would love to get a matching tattoo with you." So he started getting matching tattoos with strangers because he wanted to leave his mark on the world. Instead of being all sad and being depressed, knowing that his life was short, he wanted to leave. He wanted to send a message and make his life count and matter. So yeah, he did that. And he had 2 questions for me after he heard that song. He said, "Number one, can I make Tattoos to Heaven my theme song?" So every time Don went through a town, he was on the news because this was a crazy story, right? Such a
Mhm.
cool story. So when he was on the news, my song Tattoos to Heaven was playing in the background. Then he had another question, said, "Can I get a matching tattoo with you?" So I said, "Heck yeah." So I was number 280 with Don Caskey, and brought him to Nashville to do that, and then took him to a show. We played a full band show in Peoria, Illinois, and we got to tell our story and bring him on stage. And then that prayer was answered. People magazine covered the story, and so we have so many songs out there like that that have like a story behind them. And I don't, I think they're, hopefully more people get to put eyes on them and be affected by them in a positive way because of what we're doing with radio now. So, but,
See, that goes back to what I was saying about country music because even though you've been in Nashville going on 11 years now, and I mean, like I said, it's a 10-year town, and a lot of people feel like, if I don't make it in that 10 years and it just isn't meant to be. But you've got all these things outside of that. And I don't want to I say this phrase loosely that outside of that success in your music, you got success in other places that people will never have.
well, it started as, I said this morning during the radio interview, like I'm sitting on the stool in front of programming directors, and some pretty important dudes. And how I said very frankly and very honestly, like I never thought I'd be the artist on that stool or on that microphone or on that stage. It's really started as I wanted to be a songwriter, and I wrote a song out of heartbreak for my mother. It turned me into a philanthropist. I started saying yes
Mhm.
to every opportunity to play. I partnered with the National Alzheimer's Association, and I played every gala that you can think of for them all around the country. I played galas now around the world. We did a tour in the UK, and raised a lot of money to fight against a disease, and I just really went to war, and that's it's really philanthropy, like that's where I started, and it turned me into an artist, because I had said yes to every opportunity. That a lot of them are like, well, we don't just want you to come and tell your story about your mom. We want you to put on a show. So I created a band and a live show. And when you have a live show, it has to be fun because people are coming to your show for an experience. So I created an experience, and I've become an artist, and, so now it's more than that. I love that it started with that because I have a lot of friends and even younger kids that are coming to town now. I see that they just want to be famous, and that's so empty to me. And we do live in the TikTok world, which is a little scary. It can be really used for good, but also a little scary. And it didn't start like that for me. It wasn't, oh, I want to make my music known and then find a purpose. It was like, no, God gave me a purpose, and now I can use my music. You know,
Right.
to kind of follow my purpose. So I appreciate you saying that. There's a lot of work to still be done. Like last night, we felt raise over 100 million bucks. It's growing, but
Right.
it's just not. It's a lot. That is a lot of money. It's a stupid amount of money. A lot of people won't even understand what that amount of money is in their lifetime. But it's
Mhm.
unfortunate it's not enough. We've made leaps and bounds this year with the Alzheimer's Association. We've had treatments that have been approved by the FDA that are available now to basically halt the onset of dementia. The problem we're running into now is that a lot of people don't want to. You have to get tested early enough for those treatments to take effect. You have to catch it soon enough, like anything. And a lot
Right.
of people, it's not a good feeling if you think you're losing your memory. So that people are going to put it on the back burner and be naive, and they don't want to admit that they're having problems, so they don't get tested. And so now we're, basically it's kind of become my job, to make it cool to talk about it. So that's
Right.
really the biggest part of what I do, and that will always be the biggest part of what I do is to be a philanthropist, to raise money, obviously, for research, to shine light on and raise up caregivers, because caregivers get they're affected the most, more than the person that actually has the disease. They're the person that has to do the things and see the things that no one should have to do, like my little sister had to do for my mother. And,
Right.
and now we're jumping into a whole nother phase of, okay, how do we show hope? How do we spread a message of hope? So we're actually working on a spring tour right now, and it's going to be called Night of Hope Tour. We actually made friends with a gal in Kansas City. And this is a rare case, and there's few out there. And unfortunately, a lot of them get shut down because, like everything, not to get political, but people make a lot of money off of Alzheimer's. So people don't want to hear this message. But there was a gal in Kansas City we made friends with. She was diagnosed with dementia, a form of dementia, and she reversed it. And so we're going to be spreading her message and calling the tour A Night of Hope. How can you change your lifestyle, your eating habits, your diet, your nutrition, exercise, how to engage your mind, how to become more social so you can make sure that you don't get Alzheimer's or a form of dementia in the future. So that's a big part of what I do. So I'm glad that that's seen and that's known. That means a lot to me.
That's awesome. I mean, before, I mean, I've probably got another hour and a half of stuff to talk to you about, but you released a song, and you talked about it earlier that present is in the time, no time like the present, no present like the time, and I want to play that. Now you've kind of reworked it a little bit for the holidays.
Yeah.
And since we're so close, we're coming up on less than a week away from Thanksgiving, a month away from Christmas and all that. I'm going to play that holiday version. But I want people to hear it so that they can understand what the song is about because it means so much to you. It means so much to me and our hearts, not just in our ears and our heads and in our as bad as and I don't mean it this way, and I hope you don't take it that way, but in bank accounts or anything else, it doesn't mean anything in those areas. It means our heart. That's what it's about. And so I want people to listen to this and really listen to it. Just close your eyes if you're wearing headphones or if you're listening a little bit later on and you've got headphones in, or if you're driving in the car, don't close your eyes. Just shut out everything else. Don't close your eyes. I don't want that on my conscience. But this song is amazing. I'm telling you right now, it's amazing. And so this is Jay Allen. It's called "A Present Like the Time."
Take a picture, take a chance. Chase a dream, chase a girl. Say a prayer, take a trip. Don't hold your breath, hold your kiss. For that too big. Cause it can fade in a minute. No matter how you spin it. That clock keeps ticking. It can stop on a dime. Be careful how you spend it. And a blink it's gone goodbye. Cause there's no time like the present. There's no present like the time. It's a gift, it's all you get. Make a friend, make amends, make a call. Tell the truth, say I love you. Help a stranger, help yourself. Pull that Bible off that shelf. Open it up with your mind. See the world through his eyes. Make the most of what matters the most in this life. Cause it can fade in a minute. No matter how you spin it. That clock keeps ticking. It can stop on a dime. Be careful how you spend it. And a blink it's gone goodbye. Cause there's no time like the present. There's no present like the time. It's a gift, it's all you get. Make a friend, make amends, make a call. Tell the truth, say I love you. It can fade in a minute. No matter how you spin it. That clock keeps ticking. It can stop on a dime. Be careful how you spin it. And I'm playing it's gone goodbye. There's no time like the present. Oh, there's no time like the present. There's no present like the time. It's a gift, it's all you get. Make a friend, make amends, make a call. Tell the truth, say I love you.
A lot of wisdom in that song. A whole lot. That last line, especially, say I love you. I mean, if I can encourage anybody out there tonight, and this is something I have done with my kids. When my kids got older, instead of saying I love you, they would say love you. And I would always tell them, no, it's always I love you because I want you to know that I love you. So I've done that with all my kids. Um, I I don't care if they're the youngest to the oldest, 30 to nearly 40, they're gonna know that I love them. And so that's one of the things that I've always tried to stress to them. Um,
That's all.
let's let's move on to something a little happier because I got questions.
Sure.
We talked about Kylie, and how did you two meet? I'm curious.
Yeah, our running joke is that we met over free red wine. So,
Hey, that's my wife.
yeah, it makes sense now. We're still keeping that theme going with her. But So I got signed on my first publishing deal in Nashville at this company called MB2 Entertainment. I was actually the first ever songwriter that they signed. I kind of was, I came to Nashville and started a band, and very quickly got offered a record deal. That record deal fell through. The band broke up. I kind of floundered for a little bit, and I just started, writing as every day. I gave my heart to the songwriters room, and led me to this situation where I was introduced to these guys starting this new publishing company. And I remember I walked in the door and they didn't even have electricity. There was like a fold up table and one chair and a phone on the floor and no lights on. And I was like, what am I doing here? And I just fell in love with the guys. And, they wanted to wrap their arms around me, and signed a deal with them. And then they signed a bunch of songwriters, and it kind of just took off. It was a really good scenario. And so they had a big open house, and they invited a lot of industry people from Music Row. And one of them at the time was Kylie's manager. And so it was at the end of the day, his manager was actually at her publishing house where she was writing, and she was done. She had just wrapped up her song, and so he invited her to come to this open house at my publishing company, MB2. And she said, "Nah, not really my thing. I think I'm just gonna go home." And he said, "Well, there's gonna be free red wine." And she said, "Okay." So her story is, she walked in as I was walking down the stairs in this house, and she said she spotted me and thought to herself, as cheesy as it sounds, that's my husband. And so she really pursued me. She encouraged her publisher to reach out to my publisher, and we set up a writing session. And I remember I walked in that day of that writing session, and I thought the same thing about her. That's going to be my wife. And we just hit it off. Her and I could write a song easily, not to be cocky, but in 45 minutes. And that day it took us 8 hours with a very long lunch break, and just fell in love. It's been really, honestly, we're not perfect and we have our fights and hard times, but it's easy. I mean, she is, um, I don't think there's people that don't believe in soulmates because they haven't met theirs yet. I've met mine, and can't imagine a day without her. So pretty beautiful life we have now. And now we're approaching 1 year of marriage, November 27th, which is a whole nother story in itself.
Well, do you think, do you think it's easier if somebody in the industry is married to somebody in the industry, or do you think it's harder?
I think the grass is always greener. I think you have to make your choice. And for me, to be, I'm always going to be human and honest, George. So I was married previously. I got married at a very young age, and we were just too young. We were kids, and we grew apart and we separated. And she ended up remarrying, and I believe she's very happy and has a bunch of kiddos. But she wasn't in the music industry. So, when I was, coming home with demos and like pumped about a song, her eyes glazed over, and there was just no understand. We didn't share the same passion, and so that was hard. Kylie and I share the same passion. We really know all the same people, have the same friends, the same contacts. We both tour, so sometimes we don't talk for 2 or 3 days, and it's okay. Another running joke is that we high five in airports. So sometimes we literally get to lay down in bed next to each other for 2 hours, then we have to get up and go somewhere. So, but that's the hard part, and being in the same industry and both being artists and both touring. So it's glass half full, for us always, and we just have kind of this understanding, and it works. It might not and probably wouldn't work for everyone, but for some reason it's our design and it works for us. And it's a pretty cool thing. Like today we've literally not spoken all day long. I may talk to her tonight, may talk to her in the morning, and that's fine. We're just there with each other in sync always. So it's
Right.
yeah, pretty cool.
If I may put you on the spot here, but I'm going to ask you this question. If the two of you were out on tour together, who's going to open for whom?
So people have started, it's been really neat for people to start to see us, together. Like I said, like we just we've done the CMA Awards the last 2 years in a row, and they have us out on the carpet together, and we did the BMI Awards for the first time, and people are now like starting to request us to play shows together, and buyers and venue owners are reaching out like, we want both of you. And I will gladly say I will open up for her. That is never going to be a fight. Even if we both had seasons where like We've been seasons where like I'm doing really well and she's struggling, or she's doing really well. Like I remember like I literally had lost my mom and like didn't have a deal, didn't even have a manager, and she like had signed her deal with Universal. Like so we've had these ebb and flow moments with our lives and our careers, and it's really important for us to always just be each other's biggest cheerleaders, you know. And I would just always, and she'd said the same thing. Like we try to be selfless towards each other and take the back seat to each other. And like, you know, last night we played a Alzheimer's event for Kim Paisley in Nashville, and we had literally planned to sing this song together. It's a song that I'm a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of Three Doors Down. So it was a 2000s theme party. Everyone dressed as early 2000s and played 2000s hits. And so we played Kryptonite. We had rehearsed it where it's not her type of song, but she had learned the harmonies and she was going to come out. And we sound checked and came off stage, and right before we were supposed to go on, she just goes, Jay, she goes, this is your moment. So I'm just going to say side stage. And she came out for the next song, No Present Like the Time. But that's just how we kind of treat each other. So I'll always be the forever opener. I don't mind that. I'll take that. It's a privilege for me.
You don't hear, you might know people in the industry, you know, you got Tim and Faith, and of course you got Blake and Gwen, who really aren't in the same genre, but they're in the same industry. I mean, she does have 2 #1 country hits. I get that. But, and then I mean, there's so many people that are, you know, married that don't have any kind of inkling what this business. I mean, this can be a grueling business sometimes. It really can. This industry is.
Yeah, it can chew you up and spit you out if you let it, you know, and being really vulnerable. You know, we've had a lot of moments where, I mean, Kylie is, you know, had her head in my lap, bawling her eyes out, you know, and had some really tough times, you know. But we have each other at the end of the day. It always comes back to that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we have each other. We're so blessed. We're so thankful, you know. So we hang on to that, and hopefully, you know, I would say we have the opportunity to be an example. You know, now you know we've seen so many stories recently of country couples. You know, who you know from the outside looks like, oh wow, like you know they're doing so well, like you know everyone wants to be like them, and then all of a sudden it's getting announced that they're getting a divorce. You know, I always tell Kylie that we have the opportunity to be an example. You know, so let's take care of ourselves and each other and protect our relationship and our marriage so we can encourage other people, you know, and other, you know, kids that are, you know, together, you know, couples or marriages, you know. We're aiming to, you know, like I said, we we've had our tough times and we fight. We've had some. Kylie's a tough cookie, man. She's a tough one. But you know, at the end of the day, like we choose to be loyal. You know, we made that choice and we're gonna stick to it. You know, so hopefully
Yeah.
that inspires someone else, encourages someone else, and I do this thing now. I think it's really important, whether anyone knows the song or not. I wrote this song for Kylie called "After You." The hook line is, "There's no after you. If there was an after you, I'm not there." You know, so I actually surprised her on our wedding night, and I sang it to her, and I had her little sister get up and sing the harmonies at our reception. And so for every time we play a show, kind of halfway through my set, I think it's really important to like talk about our marriage, you know, and a lot of people obviously are fans of hers and tie us together. So I ask people to raise your hand if you're married. Keep your hand up if you've been married for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And then whoever's been married the longest, I have them come up to the front from the stage and they slow dance, I have them slow dance, and we sing this song to them. And then I talk about loyalty. How cool that you have showed us that loyalty still exists. We actually had a couple that was, we played a festival in Nebraska, and I mean, people, we got to like 50. I'm like, dang, y'all are old. And then a couple, they've been married for 61 years. I was like, I did my whole deal, like, oh, you won, you have to come down front. And the guy literally just picked up his wife's oxygen tank and shook his head. We're not coming down front.
Oh,
It's like, I think it's really important just to showcase loyalty and the things that matter. You know, I think it's our culture is kind of starting to slip away from the things that matter. So hopefully we can help bring it. The more clout that I have, especially with country radio starting to happen, we're going to try to bring back those principles if we can. So.
Right. Well, my wife married into country radio. And she's quite honestly, I tell people this all the time. We go to CRS and you would think she was the one on the radio. And she's not. She's a licensed massage therapist, but everybody still wants to get to know her for some reason. I don't know why.
Love it.
But they talk to her. They'll talk to her before they talk to me. And I'm just sitting there going, okay. I just play along. I let her have her minute,
That's awesome, man. How long have y'all been married?
Actually, we've been, it'll be, 7 years it was just 7 years.
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah. 7 years in October.
Awesome.
No text message. So I don't know.
So you're good.
As long as I don't get a text message, I'm all right. I'm downstairs in the studio, so I could be in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want that. She's kind of like Kylie. She can hold her own.
Yeah, it gets scary sometimes.
She's a much better shot than I am. So me running away didn't make a difference.
Oh goodness. Yeah, we got the same type of woman. That's awesome.
So I don't want to keep you. I know you're down in Florida. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but we were talking about the tour, and you're going to be in St. Louis coming up in December. So any of our St. Louis listeners or friends, December 8th at the Garage.
Yep.
Where you're going to be, and you're there with our pal Marty Brooks from WIL. Yes. And Marty, you don't owe me anything, so don't worry about it. Just a bottle of bourbon will be good, bud.
Let's go.
That is, and it's like $10. I think tickets for $10 is what I saw, and it's for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I think they're giving a portion of the ticket sales back towards the fight against Alzheimer's, which is awesome. I love Marty for doing that, and we love St. Louis. There's, they're spending the present like the time, which is so awesome of them. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're going to bring the band, and like I said, we have a message to share, but we also put on a party. So come and be yourself and get ready to have a good time. And,
I don't know if you played that venue before, but it's a pretty nice venue.
I haven't. This is the first time for me. I'm pumped. We're really looking forward to it.
So I'll have to look into that and see kind of. I don't think December 8th. I'll have to double check the calendar. I don't think the kids are coming for Christmas for 2 more weeks after that, so we should be good.
Come on.
So we may just go up there and make an overnight trip and then come back the next day.
Come hang. Let's go.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So now you're in Florida right now. You said you got some more radio interviews to do tomorrow.
Yeah, we're bouncing around the Orlando area, and then got to go back to Nashville for literally a couple hours, and then we're heading to Bakersfield, California, on Wednesday. So it never ends, but it's awesome. It's the life we prayed for, my friend, and here we are. So we'll sleep when we die.
There you go. So you guys check Jay out. His oh, hang on, let me get over here. I had this up a while ago and I think I took it down for some reason. There we go. Jay Allen Official. And I spelt official wrong, so don't spell it the way I have it.
That's awesome.
Have an I after the have.
Happens to the best of us.
I know. I was like, I didn't even notice that till just now. I'm like, that does not look on the window because it's not right.
I do that all the time. I like that misspell the easiest words and like whatever.
Well, it's so funny because I've read one time that the worst spelled word, if you know anybody from Colorado, the worst spelled word in Colorado is Colorado.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Try being from Mississippi.
I know, right?
Yeah, I had an easy one. I grew up in Iowa. That Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw that up.
Yeah.
You're but yeah, man. What a pleasure to speak with you, George. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad we finally had the chance to make it happen, and hopefully we get to hang out, and party a little bit December 8th. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, that's going on my calendar as soon as I get here. Also, we'll have No Present Like the Time will be on the Before Nashville Spotify playlist as soon as we get off. I always put the songs on that we feature, so I want to get that up for folks to listen to. And again, if you're up in the St. Louis area, or you're listening, or you know people in the St. Louis area, then share with them that Jay's going to be there at the garage on December 8th. And it is a portion of the proceeds will be going back to Alzheimer's research and the Alzheimer's Association. And we want to try to raise as much as we can. Trying to think of what the capacity of that room is, and I don't know off the top of my head. The guy that owns it owns another venue, and I get him confused sometimes.
Okay.
But
Let's pack it out.
yeah, regardless, we'll get it packed out. So we will hopefully see you coming up in about 3 weeks, then 4 weeks. And
Yeah, around the corner. Let's go.
yeah. So until then, my friend, you take care. Tell Kylie that my wife and her husband said hello. My wife's husband, don't get me confused there.
I love how you worded that. That's awesome. I will tell her hello and tell your wife hello. Hopefully we get to meet her soon. But yeah,
Absolutely.
what a blessed conversation, my friend. Thank you for having me on, George, and have a great rest of your night.
All right, brother. You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Before Nashville on all social media and listen wherever you get your podcast. Tune in again for another country star of tomorrow on Before Nashville with George Davis. I'm Kevin Casey on behalf of Worldwide Pants. Have a great night.